Hey guys, and welcome to a battle between me leading the forces of Korak Kadrin, the mighty Dawi, up against James Obrovnik and his Empire forces. Now, this is probably my favourite Dawi build at the moment, so I'll go through it in just a second. But I'll give a massive shout out to A-Move and Eumenes, who actually designed a Dawi guide to each matchup and what kind of builds to bring. And this is a build very, very similar to one of theirs. I think I may have changed one or two things, or perhaps not at all. So I'll definitely make sure to drop a link down in the description. If you're a new player or an experienced player looking to learn Dawi matchups, I highly recommend their guide. Anyway, without further ado, let's hop into the battle. So as you can see, we've dominated our side of the battlefield, gone incredibly wide. So that means in the front line, we have gone very cheap and cheerful with Dawi warriors. Krakadrin colour scheme is so goddamn awesome. I much prefer their kind of red, bronze and gold look than the standard Dawi. But Dwarf warriors dotted all the way along the front line, including the warriors of Dragonfire Pass, just to hold the enemy back a little while longer. So pretty flimsy overall, just 5 units of those bad boys. And we do have a couple of units of miners as well. So we have one with blaster chargers in the back left, as well as one in the back right. So I'm keeping them just a little bit back in reserve so I know where to push them as the battle does start to get underway. But that is going to be it for our combat forces. Apart from that, we have 2 Thunderers in the centre pocket, ready to help deal with enemy cav and the like of that. And then we have a ton of Rangers, I believe 5 in total. So 1 here, 2, 3, 4, 5. Dotted around as well. These guys, of course, do come in with stalks, so my opponent can't currently see them. And the missile fire really helps bring down enemy handgunners and outriders, pistoliers and the like. We're also coming with quad cannons, so 1 cannon here, 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 and over on this left-hand hill. And you can see we are incredibly spread out. We do have a Rune Lord as well, simply coming in with Master Rune of Wrath and Ruin to try and slow down our opponent, as well as a Gyrocopter with Brimstone Gun. Now, you may be thinking, Jordan, multiple times you have said on your videos that you should not go this heavy in range if you cannot defend it, but the beautiful thing about the Dwarfs is we can defend it because our ranged units are relatively tanky, so opponents are going to try to swoop in with cav, shut down the Thunderers, but if they're shutting down the Thunderers, they're going to be getting shot at by multiple cannons as well as Rangers. And people's main instinct tends to be to shut down the artillery, so if you come round with some Empire Knights, Pistoliers and like, try and flank around and jump on top of a cannon, for example, you're simply going to get caught between multiple units of Thunderers and Rangers. So that is the plan, at least. Let's see if it does indeed work. Our opponent is going for the force of the Empire here. Balthazar Gelt up on top of his mighty horse is pretty decent in this matchup. Law of Metal, as you would assume, pretty good against the heavily armoured Dawi. Is bringing his staff, Arcane Conduit, the Golden Hounds, as well as Seer and Doom. So a pretty interesting toolkit overall. Going to be interesting to see how he does perform. We have triple Pistoliers down here on the low ground. It looks like 2 Outriders with grenade launchers. Very interesting to see what kind of damage they do bring to the table. They are anti-infantry, but not so much AP, I suppose, as the Pistoliers. But in concentrated fire, these guys can do some serious damage. They're actually one of my most, I think one of the most underrated Empire units all round. He also does have double Empire Knights as well on the left flank, as well as 1 unit on the right to try and pressure my backline where possible. Clearly wants to take a defensive position. Spearmen in the front lines, cheap and cheerful chaff to hold back the force of the Dawi, while he does have crossbowmen mixing with handgunners to try and punish my forces as I approach, as well as a Hellstorm rocket battery and a mortar, so a pretty wild Empire build overall. Quite a few units I wasn't really expecting, and he certainly wants me to kind of push up this hill, but I vastly outgun my opponent, which often happens with the Dawi forces anyway, so I'm definitely going to be making him come to me if I can possibly do it. So I'm going to be rearranging our forces, moving along to take this high ground here, as we are currently out of range with a lot of our cannons. Hellstorm rocket battery does come in, completely missing those warriors of Dragonfire Pass, who are clearly blessed by the Dawi gods of new and old, but at the same time, Hellstorm rocket battery, to be honest, is not very accurate at all. So I knew he was targeting these guys, but it's almost worth not dodging because you're just as likely to get hit realistically. As you can see, a few of our Dawi do get a little bit pushback there on that one. Gyrocopters were pushing forward, trying to pressure Balthazar a little bit, but I was very wary of these Pistoliers and Outriders. Didn't want to take too much damage. And at this point, I can actually see all his Empire Knights, I don't believe. I think the hill was blocking them, but maybe not. Maybe I was just a bit blind. So they was a little bit surprising when they moved around to the left-hand flank, but then I did spot them. So we're moving up to position now of our cannons, taken to the nice high ground, once again remaining incredibly spread out. Now the reason I'm doing this is I do not want all the units shut down in one go. So it's easier to defend all your cannons and ranged troops if they're in a little clump like this, and you have a load of warriors dotted around. But that's not what we're going for this build. I'm not trying to necessarily stop my opponent getting into the back line, because it is going to happen. But I just don't have enough troops to defend, but I want to punish them for every time they do. So we are going to be moving up a little bit more aggressively down here on the left-hand side with this cannon, moving up our forces a bit closer than the right-hand flank, and moving up the cannon just to trade with the Hellstorm and the mortars. Cannons are much better at taking out artillery pieces than they are. Gyrocopters pressuring Balthasar Gelt once more, pushing him away a little bit more. Looks like some cannon shots actually going a little bit wild at him, which does break his leadership a tiny bit there, so he gets a little bit nervous. But I think that cannon will be moving forward in just a second to get some better priority targets. The huge cav formation is coming around this left-hand side. It is both of the grenade launchers as well as the triple Empire Knights. My opponent's so desperate to stick to the high ground here. I think at this point, if I was forced to Empire, I would be advancing, because I know for certain I'm going to get outshot. So you might as well close the distance as quickly as possible. But it looks like he wants to try and win the game with the Cav and Balthasar Gelt. A relatively well-placed Searing Doom that I didn't actually dodge a decent amount of it, but it does some okay damage overall. Nothing too spectacular, to be honest. But it's interesting to see Balthasar Gelt use those kind of aggressive magical attacks up against the Dawi forces. But of course, dwarves do have that missile resistance. So the Great Cannon, or the regular cannon, sorry, is going to be advanced here. I'm well aware of all these cav come in, so we are going to reform our lines. Rangers getting ready to unfortunately be sacrificed to take a hit, but miners are coming over as well as some thunderers. I'm not going to bring all my forces over. I still want to stay in this relatively decent formation, because I'm pretty confident of fending these guys off. We do have the Rune Lord spreading over as well, Gyrocopter and loads of Rangers and thunderers going to be coming over, ready to pepper down the enemy when they do advance. So nice damage on the Rangers, actually coming from the grenade launchers, doing some really decent damage, and in come the Empire Knights now, trying to force us down where possible. And I'm just remaining our cannons to shoot in, remaining nice and calm. We drop a Master Rune of Wrath and Ruin, slowing down these Empire Knights, and they're taking volley after volley now from Thunderers and Rangers alike. And you can see their health just absolutely drop as they are forced back. And the Empire Knights taking a lot of work so far and damage, and all we've done is simply get a unit of Rangers pretty damn beat up. For our costs, we've done pretty good. Master Rune of Wrath and Ruin doing its work, of course, slowing down these Empire Knights down to about a third health. Another unit has lost about 1/3, and the Outriders have been forced wide. But at this point, we have pushed forward a lot of our forces, so I'm going to be slowly pulling back here. I don't want to leave my cannon, as this simple, easy pickings. I want him to pay, of course, if he does come in for that fell swoop. We did break one unit of Empire Knights, but it should probably rally before the edge of the battle. Looks like one of our cannons did indeed actually switch targets to them. And it's up to a whopping 25 kills out the gate, not bad at all. Balthasar Gelt getting a little bit close for comfort, does consider going down after that cannon, so we fill him with a few arrows and yell a few oaths at him. Looks like he is going to disappear at this point. One of the cannons does go down, unfortunately, to some Outrider fire on their journey in. But the Gyrocopter is back here as well, going to be lacing shots into the Empire Knights. And I'm honestly pretty happy for my Thunderers to take a charge from the Outriders. They're going to pin them in place, barely take any damage because of our armour. And now we have this lovely firing concave coming in from the Quarrelers, just decimating these Outriders and forcing them back. Golden Hounds have been popped here on the Rangers. I do manage to move out of the way of the worst of it, but again, it does some okay damage. I don't think it's going to be too particularly cost effective with the amount of winds of magic he's using for it, but it's still, as I said earlier, cool to see Balthasar Gelt used in different ways. One cannon has been shut down here by some Outriders charging in, but realistically, what have we lost so far? We've had one unit of Rainers pushed down to 36 models, and one cannon has been pushed off for now, but it's certainly going to rally. There's no Empire forces kind of nearby to chase it off. So here rally and then come back on top of the artillery piece. In return, we have shattered some Outriders and completely decimated this cavalry force. Empire Knights are running for the hills at the moment, and the Gyrocopter is now swooping down to chase these guys off. Brimstone guns are very effective at taking out carry pieces as well as, lords and heroes. So I really like just the inclusion of one unit of Gyrocopters here just to give us a bit of added mobility. As you can see, it looks like we did in fact lose one cannon piece. So 15 Dwarfs is easily going to be capable of manning these cannons and getting back on track. So with the Empire Knights slowly fizzled out a bit. We are going to start getting a little bit aggressive over on this right-hand side. You can see our cannons are starting to push up. We've managed to focus down the Hellstorm rocket battery. I'm now going to focus the mortar just to try and entice my opponent to come towards me. At this point, Balthazar Gelt still floating around, trying to drop spells, trying to win this skirmish game of his, but he's only up to 3 kills, and his Empire Knight forces are trying to rally over there, but have been pretty decimated. And Balthazar Gelt's kind of struggling to get out of this. Thunderers and Rangers have been doing pretty decent damage on him overall. Looks like another Searing Doom is going to be coming in, but the Rangers start getting on their, starting to pump those Dwarven legs, and manage to dodge it for the most part, just taking minimal casualties. Balthazar Gelt thinks it's a good idea to hop down on top of this cannon crew, but as I've said multiple times already, Dwarfs are so resilient that Balthazar Gelt, a meager wizard, is simply going to get pounded for his efforts. Brimstone Gun as well doing some huge work, and Balthazar Gelt is routed. A few more shots there, unfortunately missed as he does float up into the skies. Hopefully we'll be able to chase him off, but he may well rally, still coming in with over 300 health at this point, 313 there. And Empire Knight's going to be falling back, it looks like, to the main force. Outriders, though, are going to continue to try and push around at my formation. But we've done a fantastic job so far of kind of pushing him away and keeping him away from our key targets. And the few times he has managed to get on them, we haven't suffered too many casualties, and we've dealt a ton of damage in return. Gyrocopter, happy to sit above these knights all day and just shoot them down. Quarrel of Fire is going to be coming in as well. Dwarf Warriors just going to be sitting here as a bit of a roadblock protecting this cannon. And as you can see, we have forced off both the mortar as well as the Hellstorm rocket battery. So we are going to be switching our targets to the crossbowmen and the handgunners here. Empire Knights do charge in, but they're stopped quite easily by the Dwarf Warriors, and Gyrocopter helps finish them off with some good kills. These poor Empire Knights have been Mastered Rune of Wrath and Ruin, take some blasting charges to the face, as well as some Quarrel of Fire, Ranger Fire, sorry, is going to be bringing these guys down. And they are starting to rout from the field. We can then use mobility of the Gyrocopter to chase these guys away. At this point, my opponent does realise that he's going to have to advance here and push forward, and I've had a little look in the back line. Everything has been cleared up now. There's no real threat from the Knights anymore. Gyrocopter is simply going to chase these guys off, so I can reform my lines a little bit, push up my Rangers, and I don't have to worry too much about protecting my cannons anymore, as they're going to be relatively safe for the most part. Pistoliers are going to be pushing up, riding ahead of their force. But without their lord, this is going to be pretty damn tough. It looks like Balthazar Gelt did in fact break off the field. And, you know, he's going to run back to Karl Franz and beg for help, I'm sure. Dwarf Warriors are advanced now, coming down these slopes, getting ready to engage. And another unit of Rangers has been revealed. So you have to remember, these guys do have stalks. My opponent hasn't always known where they are. So often it looks like he has some nice pickings, and then he tries to come up, and Rangers appear out of nowhere and shut them down. Empire Knights have been shattered here, and the other ones have been escorted just nicely, friendly escort off the field by those Gyrocopters. Okay, it looks like the Hellstorm rocket battery is online. 21 kills so far, 0 for the mortar, unfortunately, but it's only really been up against Dwarf Warriors for the most part. Warriors Dragonfire Pass have taken a little bit of a beating from long range. And I'm relatively happy. Moving up, our Dwarf Warriors just going to be raising their shields now, as our cannons do start to get to work. And you see Hellstorm, once again, it's just not very accurate, unfortunately. The Regiment Renowned one can do good in certain matchups, though. Thunderers are lacing shots over to these Pistoliers, as well as Ranger Fire, almost breaking those guys in simply one volley from each. It looks like the cannon is once again pulling apart their artillery pieces, showing them once and for all, Dawi artillery is the best artillery. The poor Warriors Dragonfire Pass, who I've kind of been using to get shot all game, have been forced forward into these Spearmen, but they're going to be happy to get into the slaughter as well. Still 39 of these good old geezers left, and they do have Dwarf Warriors rallying to the cause as well, as Rangers pop up and start picking apart at crossbowmen and the like. Dwarf Warrior is going to be floating around, and at this point I'm relatively comfortable of victory, so all of my Rangers, Thunderers, everything's just going to be kind of moving in. My opponent did get in range of one cannon, so I detached the artillery crew, fell back until he stopped shooting, and then we're going to be running back to our guns here, just to ensure they don't get brought down. And our right-hand flank, we did leave in reserve for the majority of the battle, to be honest. I just didn't need it, and there's no point, wasting troops if I don't need them. I can just protect the cannons and have a good fun. But now into this late game, we finally do come in with them. Going to be pushing around to this right-hand flank to seal the fate of the Empire forces. I don't even really need to win the front line. I need to break through these spearmen in any kind of speed, because we have the range advantage, and we can slowly whittle them down. So a close victory there. Pretty dominant display over, I think, by the Dawi forces, but very well played to my opponent nonetheless. It tried some really new, interesting stuff, which I always like to see on ladder anyway. So well played here to James. using Balthazar Gelt and the Cav to try and win the skirmish game, as well as the Outriders with grenade launchers, which did some okay damage to the miners when they did shoot, but they're a pretty tricky unit to use because they do not have the 360 arc of fire, of course, so they can get killed and pulled down as well. But well played to James regardless, and I think this is a very tough matchup for the Empire, so it is cool to see other stuff tried. As for this build, it is probably my favourite dwarf build in the game at the moment, and once again I'll say it's from a guide made by Eumenes and A Move Hacker. You'll be able to find a link to that guide in the description down below, and it's just so much fun. I mean, I hate playing people like Vampire Coast, and sometimes I just like playing against Dawi because of this defensive approach, but when you're the one behind the cannon, it is certainly a lot more fun. And 79, 62, 141 and 73 kills on those cannons do some huge work across the field, and can be a relatively tough build to use. Of course, you have so many units which can be shut down, so you have to position well, you have to be aware of where your opponent is flanking from, and so forth, and do relatively decent, defensive micro and crossfire. But if you can master that, this build is fantastic, especially up against the Empire. Anyway guys, hope you did enjoy. If you did, please feel free to subscribe and give the video a big old thumbs up. I really appreciate it. And feel free to comment. I will get back to comments as quickly as possible. I tend to do them in batches, so if I haven't replied, just check back in a couple of days. Like every 3 or 4 days, I'll just go through all my replies and do them all in one go. If you want to get your battles featured on the channel, get involved in King of the Hills, I host tournaments, all that good stuff, feel free to join my Discord. There's a link just down below in the description, as well as a link to my Patreon account if you want to become a patron, and donations, all that kind of good standard stuff. Anyway guys, until next time, peace, and as always, stay awesome.